The analysis machine is back, baby, as we're going over the entire Super Mario Galaxy movie trailer to break down all the secrets, Easter eggs, plot details, and everything else that I noticed, including a weird mistake. Let's get to it. Okay, so the trailer and maybe even the movie itself opens up where the previous movie left off, with Bowser still in the custody of Princess Peach. Only his prison cell got some upgrades. No longer being a mere birdcage, it's a full-on castle. In fact, the entire room got some upgrades, like those nice new paintings back there. And it seems like he's taken up some new hobbies too. Cooking, gardening, and painting? Bowser's morbid masterpiece is a reference to the skeleton suit from Super Mario Odyssey, but combined with the real-life painting, The Scream by Edvard Munch. And if we zoom in here, we can see another one of his paintings are the flowers from Yoshi's Island. Now, although we haven't yet seen Bowser in the clown car in the Mario movies, he has a painting of himself in one right here. And look how happy they are together. Then, did you spot this Paracupa Troopa going to heaven? He's got the Halo harp and everything you need. Could that be Bowser's blue shell general that blew himself up in the first movie? Also, did you hear that little song Bowser was humming? That's his theme song from Mario 64. Now, two things here. First off, I never expected Mario to say this.
It's trash.
Second, did you catch that Bowser almost starts crying from it? Almost makes me feel sorry for the guy. In any case, Bowser's new affinity for painting doesn't appear to be completely random, as it ties directly into the movie's new villain, Bowser Jr. As in, Bowser's son, who's also a painter of sorts too, with his magic paintbrush. Although for Mario Sunshine fans, I'm sorry to say that the EGAT icon is still gone, following in the steps of the retcon done in Bowser's Fury. Although here's something fun, although Bowser Jr. looks pretty typical at first, complete with his OG bandana, when he starts using his magic powers, he takes on the appearance he had in Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Oh, and did you catch that he flew here in a Koopa clown car? Like father, like son, I suppose. Anyways, his objective is to rescue his dad, and it seems like he's probably going to be successful in that mission. Now the thing that's not entirely clear is when exactly does this take place? Well, I'm thinking it's probably pretty early into the movie. 1, Mario and Luigi are both still in the castle. 2, Bowser Jr. has to introduce himself so no one even knows who he is at this point. And 3, though it may not be a sure bet, that purplish night backdrop does look like it'd be taking place at the same time as the Star Festival we see elsewhere in the trailer, which also appears to match up closely with the original game, featuring a giant comet that flies by every 100 years. And as with the game, it seems to be leaving a trail of star bits in its dust, or space dust. And it seems to be a pretty big deal for the kingdom in general. Not only can we see Mario and Peach watching it together here, but we can even see them along with Luigi here and a ton of Toads in the background, all watching from these cute little boats with star-shaped sails from the lake behind Peach's castle. You know, the same one where that giant question block appeared from in the first movie. Although I am a little confused as to how they all go from the boats back to the castle or vice versa. Maybe they start here before venturing back? In any case, I'm thinking that Bowser Jr. is going to use the cover of the Star Festival as an opportunity to rescue his dad, while the entire kingdom is distracted. And as part of this, I'm guessing that something happens to Mario and Luigi as well, because not only do we see both of them paired off in a whole different location elsewhere in the trailer, but we also see Princess Peach and Toad team up together as they jump into a launch star straight from the game, perhaps united in a quest to find where Mario and Luigi went, or maybe something else. But hold up, let's back up for a second, as we kinda glossed over the launch star pretty quick. Because shouldn't we be wondering how did they get here in the first place? Now, if you know your Mario Galaxy, then you already know that launch stars are created by Lumas. They transform into them. And assuming that's still the case in the movie, then that means that Luma almost certainly paid a visit to Princess Peach. But for what purpose? Was the Luma sent by Rosalina herself for some reason? And if so, why? Well, I have another theory. Because do you remember how I speculated a few moments ago that Bowser Jr. was attacking during the Star Festival as a distraction? Well, taking a look at that background again, I noticed two things. One, although it does look similar to the Star Festival background, it also looks a bit different, almost more celestial, as if we're perhaps in space? Which would make sense given that's exactly what happens in the game, with Princess Peach's castle being airlifted into outer space. Although a possible point against this idea is the fact that we do see Princess Peach and Toad appearing to depart from the planet itself, with no sign of the castle floating below. But that's where my second observation comes in. And that's the fact that it almost looks like there's energy coursing around in the background too. Almost a bit force field-like to keep everyone in, imprisoning Princess Peach and the others kinda like they did to Bowser himself.
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
Whatever the case may be, whether they're in space or imprisoned by a force field or even just at the castle as normal, it's clear that they need this launch star for some important purpose. And that's when I realized something. What if the Luma that transformed into the launch star wasn't sent by Rosalina at all? After all, she may not even know who these guys are yet, because Princess Peach may already have a Luma of her own, being Luma Lee from the first movie. You know, that cute adorable star with a death wish? Maybe he finally gets his wish to transform into a launch chart to help Princess Peach and Toad out. But hey, it's just a theory, a GameXplain theory. Anyways, let's move on to the actual space flight itself. And I love how Toad starts off super scared at first, before being cool with it. During their space flight, we can see them pass by what might be Drip Drop Galaxy from the first game. Only instead of penguins, it's filled with bloopers this time. Oh, and did you catch a planet in the distant background? It's reminiscent of this one found in Gusty Garden Galaxy, again from the same game. Unfortunately, from this point, we don't see much else of Princess Peach and Toad. At least, not together. As there is one more scene featuring Princess Peach and only Princess Peach kicking the butt of a ton of ninjas. Or should I say butt-ins? Because look, this one goes flying off. Brutal. But I guess it does confirm that ninjas are in fact wearing bodysuits. Which makes me wonder, what do they look like underneath? Next, did you notice just how many freaking ninjas there are in this room? They're all over the walls. It reminded me just a bit of this sequence from the Origami King. Anyways, as you probably noticed, Princess Peach is using her parasol to fend them off, which is actually its first appearance in the movies. And we now know that's what she was holding in front of her when on the rooftop with Mario watching the Star Festival, before taking it with her into the launch star and flying through space. And if we take a close look, we can even see the handles in the shape of a heart, like in Smash Brothers. You know, this whole sequence did remind me of Multi-Man Smash after all. Now let's talk about the setting for a second, because where the heck are they? At first, this room reminded me of the generator rooms you'd find in Super Mario Galaxy, where you could run up and down all over the place. But if you look a little bit closer, the context is entirely different. Because Princess Peach is actually on a giant roulette wheel. It's even spinning as she's on it, which also explains where that white ball came from earlier that she deflected with her parasol. It actually reminded me a bit of the one you'd find in Mario Sunshine as well, which was actually part of a larger casino, just as it is here. Because if you look in the background, you can see what might be slot machines all over the place, among a card table or two as well. And there's a ton of coin blocks too, which makes sense, you gotta fund your gambling habit somehow, right? But that begs the question, how did Peach end up here? And why do the ninjas love gambling so much? Now speaking of ninjas, they're actually relatively rare in the Mario series, at least compared to a lot of the other mainline enemies, as they've yet to appear in a mainline 3D game, which makes their inclusion here just a bit more surprising, until you consider that they're star-shaped, or ninja star-shaped at least, which kinda ties into the whole celestial theme. In any case, we still have to wonder, what happened to Toad? Did he get kidnapped? We'll have to wait and see. Okay, moving on, Mario Galaxy and maybe Sunshine locations aren't the only ones that appear here, as a big Mario Odyssey one appears too. Being Tostarena, you know, the Desert Kingdom. And not just because of the giant upside down floating pyramid, but also because there's a sticker on Luigi's bike that confirms it. But why is it backwards? Wait a second, so is the Luigi L emblem. Either this shot is flipped for the trailer for some reason, or this is the deepest cut known to mankind. But considering a similar emblem on the back of Luigi's bike is facing the correct direction, it's making us think the shot was in fact mirrored. Which would mean that in the final movie, it should actually look like this. Which also fixed Luigi's emblem in this shot too. So it does seem like most of that scene was flipped for some reason. Now interestingly, Tostarena is not a new location in the Mario movie universe, as Mario and the gang actually briefly passed through it in the first movie too, when they were on the way to Cranky's Kingdom. And just like before, we can see there are still 3 floating upside down pyramids. Now the real question is, what the heck are Mario and Luigi doing back here anyway? I already theorized earlier that Bowser Jr. caused them to get separated from the rest of the gang somehow. So is this where they ended up next? Maybe, but that wouldn't quite explain how Mario and Luigi are so well prepared, as they're both wearing a color-appropriate desert cloak and a pair of goggles. Which, by the way, can we appreciate for a second that this is a shot from a freaking Mario movie? The Mad Max vibes are through the roof. Now, I should mention that this general scene of Mario and Luigi exploring a desert wearing cloaks actually matches up with a storyboard image that leaked nearly 3 years ago. So assuming the rest is still accurate, it seems they'll be going to a marketplace at some point. Whether or not that's before or after they get the bikes, we just don't know. Could they be looking for something, or maybe someone in particular? Maybe a certain princess who happens to live in the desert? Yeah, of course I'm talking about Princess Daisy. Okay, at this point we have no idea whether she'll show up or not. But here's what we do know. Between this scene of Mario and Luigi exploring a desert together, and the opening with them both together talking to Bowser, and then still together when Bowser Jr. breaks in, it's making me think Mario and Luigi will be together for a big part of the adventure. Especially since we can see that the movie separately pairs off Peach with Toad, implying we'll be following these two groups of people separately for much of the movie. Which is kinda perfect considering neither pair really interacted with the other person all that much throughout the previous movie. Which should hopefully address a big complaint of the first movie that Mario and Luigi aren't in it all that much together. And that's not even to mention the third pairing of characters we now have being Bowser and Bowser Jr., assuming the latter successfully rescues him. Which, by the way, we still don't even know how that makes sense yet. When did Bowser have a kid? It obviously had to have been from before the events of the first Mario movie, as Bowser's been in prison the entire time. And this could be a great way of giving Bowser some compelling backstory. After all, do you remember this scene from the first movie?
I was finally gonna be happy! Now you will suffer like me!
Yeah, it sounds like it's hinting at some dark past, and I wonder now if it was alluding to Bowser Jr. Maybe he lost custody of him or something? Which, in that case, could we actually meet Bowser's ex-wife, as in Junior's mom? Anyways, we gotta talk about this next scene, which of course features Rosalina as well as Bowser Jr. again. Only from within a giant robot being Mega Legs from Super Mario Galaxy, complete with the arrows that light up on its legs. Now, although we only see the exterior of it here, I can't help but wonder if this separate scene posted after the trailer is of Bowser Jr. inside the cockpit. After all, he has an entire control panel in front of him. Either that or a crazy theory time. Maybe this is the chamber in which Bowser Jr. was actually created. As in, he wasn't born, he was made. It's probably pretty unlikely, but you never know. Anyways, getting back to the story here, Bowser Jr. is after Rosalina for whatever reason. And that's new to the movie, as that never happened in the games. So what's Bowser Jr.'s end game here? Well, in the games, Bowser stole Rosalina's power stars in order to fuel his own galactic empire. And it might be something similar here. After all, we can see Grand Stars, which are more powerful power stars, engraved in Rosalina's door, which suggests they're still a thing. So capturing Rosalina might just be a means to an end. Of course, it doesn't quite go to plan, as Rosalina materializes a wand, uses it to knock back Mega Leg, before summoning 3 energy stars or something and chopping off its legs. And look at that smirk! That's the most emotion she's shown in 20 years. So as with the games, it seems like Rosalina has some major powers. But will the movie actually explain how she got them despite her human-like appearance? We'll see. In any case, I have no idea when in the movie this may take place. It could be early on, it could be later, we just don't know. What I do know though is this is probably Rosalina's home planet. We already had the building and the Power Star engravings after all, but even the entire architecture of the building, as well as another in the distance, doesn't really match anything in the Mushroom Kingdom. But it did remind me of the architecture seen in Rosalina's storybook, specifically of her home planet. Though, to be fair, it is pretty vague looking. Furthermore, this doesn't seem to be a typical planet, as it appears that there's a ledge right there that drops straight off into space. There also appears to be a model or statue of some kind featuring a bunch of planets, maybe? Oh, and then there's Rosalina's freaking Comet Observatory in the background. You know, her spaceship. Which may still be functional considering Bowser Jr. probably hasn't stolen the Power Stars yet, if that's still a goal of his. Now, speaking of unclear timelines, we have to talk about the library scene, in which Rosalina tries to tell a story to the Lumas about Princess Peach, but they only want to hear the story about Mario and Luigi. Who can blame them? Point is, this scene almost certainly takes place after everything else we've seen so far. Perhaps even long after, as implied by
Once Upon a Time.
After all, if it follows the lore of the games, Rosalina herself could be well over 100 years old, perhaps even thousands of years old. So maybe the entire movie is a retelling from her storybook. In which case, spoiler alert, Mario and Luigi are successful, I guess. But there's also the possibility there being other shenanigans at work, such as involving universe resets, such as seen at the end of Mario Galaxy 1. Which could possibly mean these stories happen prior to the events of the movie, as they could be referencing different variations of the same thing. There's also the slim possibility that she's referencing the events of the first movie, without having actually met Mario, Luigi, or Princess Peach yet. But how she would actually know of them, I have no idea. In any case, there's some cute details here beyond the overall gorgeous nature of the scene. For one, I love how the story appears as a pop-up book, with Princess Peach herself resembling her classic 2D artwork. Furthermore, did you catch the orange Luma back here catching a nap? I guess he's heard these stories one too many times. Also, the baby Luma with a binky in its mouth is way too adorable. Oh, and for those unaware, this library scene is almost certainly set on the Comet Observatory as well, just as it was in the games. Now, even though we don't know exactly how Rosalina fits into the overall story in the movie yet, there is still one more thing I can't help but wonder. Could she be related to Princess Peach in any way? I ask that partially because of this scene from the first movie.
I don't know where I'm from.
Hey, maybe you're from my world.
There's a huge universe out there, with a lot of galaxies.
As she stares out into space! Not only that, but if you take a close look at Princess Peach's nightgown when she arrived in the Mushroom Kingdom as a baby, we can see it has frickin' stars and moons on it. They were almost certainly teasing some kind of connection. Now whether they follow through on that, I don't know. But could Rosalina possibly be Peach's mother or something else of that nature? It's probably entirely coincidental, but to support my point more, the voice actress for Peach, Anya Taylor-Joy, was 26 years old when the first movie premiered. Whereas the voice actress for Rosalina, Brie Larson, will be 36 years old, or 10 years older when the second movie releases, although the real-time gap between their ages is 7 years. Like I said, this probably doesn't mean anything, but if she is going to be her mother, it would make sense to cast someone a bit older. Woo! And with that, that's everything I wanted to cover about the Super Mario Galaxy movie trailer. With that, thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments below what you think of my theories, ideas, observations, and everything else. And of course, click that subscribe button if you haven't already, as we'll be here to cover even more of this amazing looking movie. With that, thanks for watching everyone, and catch you later. Bye!